This conference will now be recorded.
Any questions so far while we're pausing? Yes, hi.
Hi, sorry, Blake. I'm Heather from Caroline.
Hi, Heather.
I wasn't sure where the building was and I wasn't sure where to park, so I moved around a few times.
It's okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. Jimmy,
I live right here.
where do you live?
I live in Lindbergh, but I bike the other way, the Hanover, because it's all from Road.
Yes.
No traffic.
Yeah.
So sometimes I bike to Pennsylvania, but I don't bike from home. Well,
I wouldn't be there. All right, so you get the idea. So even in the farthest places that you could live in Ladysmith, so down in Lake Caroline, for example, it's only about 2 miles to retail and restaurants, or 2.8 miles to school, which is a reasonable bike ride if you had a shared use path and could get off of Route 1.
How far is that, Terry?
So from here to the farthest place, to school, for example, would be 2.8 miles.
Okay,
Um,
easy by bike.
I certainly rode that far to school when I was a kid.
Oh, me too, every day.
So really not very far. So even the farthest housing developments are an easy bike ride away from the heart of Ladysmith. This can be very difficult to see when you're always hopping in the car to go somewhere.
Hey, Terry,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
While you have this map up, and I know we talked in the office 2 weeks ago, but Pendleton is eventually going to connect to Ladysmith Road.
Yeah, up, it's gonna have a place right here, right? An entrance right here?
Right.
Yeah.
Around there, yeah. And so, well, I guess they're coming down Route 1. I was thinking about a connection between Lake Caroline and Pendleton to then connect to Ladysmith.
And that would be better. Yeah, this is just showing currently where they are. This is not the map with future growth.
Right, yeah.
For those of us who aren't familiar with the area, Terry, where actually is Ladysmith, the town on there?
What is the exit number?
110, yeah.
110, exit 110 on 95. So, do you know where Thornburg is?
I do, but where's it on the map? That's what I was asking.
Oh, where's the town?
Yeah.
Well, so this is the small sort of town area, but actually I've been told that this side of the road is where they want to really grow their little town center.
Got it. Okay.
So right at the intersection of Route 1 and Ladysmith.
Okay, thank you.
But the grocery store and the restaurants are currently right here.
Thank you.
Next slide. So given all of that for existing conditions, I recommended a suite of improvements, starting with something that might seem like a small thing, but really is a big thing, signs. I've always enjoyed this sign in Ashland, if you've seen it. Thank you for visiting Ashland, the center of the universe, because it makes you think you are somewhere. And maybe when people drive by Ladysmith on Route 1 speeding as fast as they can, they don't think they are anywhere. So some of the recommendations are placemaking and wayfinding signage, shared use path network, sidewalk network, safe, well-lit crossings at appropriate places, and pedestrian refuge medians included in upcoming road widenings. Next slide. So, excuse my kindergarten drawing, but this is a gateway sign. This is Gatewood Road, which is the northernmost part of Ladysmith. And this is Route 1. So when you're driving down Route 1, you first notice a big sign that says, "Welcome to Ladysmith Village." I don't know what that typo is. A bike walk community. Please drive safely. So this is their new, brand spanking shiny new shared use path. And you'll notice you're in a place. Maybe you'll slow down. You're not just driving down the road anymore. So placemaking through signs, gateway signage tells travelers they have arrived somewhere. It helps them slow down and make them aware of potential pedestrians and cyclists. Next slide. Next is the shared use path network. High-speed, high-volume rural roadways, such as US 1, are best suited for off-road bike and pedestrian infrastructure. So this is maybe a confusing map, but there's a lot going on here. This is where our gateway sign is. You're traveling down Route 1, and you're going to have a shared use path along the west side of Route 1. This is the intersection of Route 1 and Lake Smith Road. So this is currently where the commercial area is. This is where their future town core is going to be. All of this is going to be residential area down here as well. This is where he was talking about Pendleton growing up to Lady Smith Road. All the blue lines are going to be shared use paths. Now, where you like to bike, Heather, is you leave Lake Landor and you go this way. And what's out here is just going to be 6-foot shoulders because these roads are not very busy and that's all they need. So there's a lot going on there. Let me know if there's any questions or anything to say about it.
Carrie, I've heard the term barrier separated shared use path. Would
Right,
anything
so
like
these
this
are
be-
not on the road. These are separated by space or a barrier.
Okay,
So
okay,
you've got your road here, then you've got like a grassy area, median,
okay,
and you've got your path.
okay. So what you have here are actually barrier separated shared use paths.
Right, either by space or a barrier such as, if you drive down Lafayette Boulevard, VCR trail gets real close and has those ballers or whatever. If you don't have space, you have to have a barrier. But if you have space, you can separate them with space.
Yeah.
It just depends on the circumstance.
Chatham
Yeah.
Bridge is gonna be a new one that's got a barrier.
Mhm.
Chatham Bridge.
Yeah, Chatham Bridge has a barrier.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the context of the space you're working with.
Sure, yeah.
At this level of planning, we don't know what's on the ground yet.
Got
So
it.
we don't know exactly what we're gonna have.
Yeah, what I've read lately, I've gotten really interested in this lately, is that the descriptions I read say that a barrier doesn't have to be like a wall. It can be a grassy area of some space, something that gets your path away from the traffic. I think that's
That's
it.
right, anything like that.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you.
Mhm.
This really looks cool.
Thank you.
I want to move there.
Since it looks like most of the shared use paths are in future development areas, is this falling into the plan? We're talking about influencing organizations to build this stuff, because, I mean, depending on where property lines and where all this stuff falls out, is this something that's going to be coordinated with that local developer to burden some of the costs for the development of those?
So in some of these cases, yes, like some of this is on VDOT owned property and some of this is on private owned property. So it will depend on the specific case. Because it falls in the term in long range planning, this is not gonna happen tomorrow. This is like a 20-year. Like some of this will be built much more quickly than the rest of it.
I was just looking at all the highlighted, you said was future
Yeah.
plan for residential, and majority of your proposed shared shared
You mean
use
like
path
this?
network, yeah,
Yeah.
resides on a developmental
Well,
area.
Craig, this will be a public road. This one that goes right here.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be a public.
That's all being developed all on both sides of the. Definitely included.
That's true. They'll be proper for that. All right, next slide. So the next thing I want to talk about is the pedestrian hybrid beacon. Falls under safe, well-lit crossings. So the pedestrian hybrid beacon is recommended for mid-block crossings. It does not stop traffic unless the pedestrian is present. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's much safer, of course, than an unsignalized crossing. And it's much less expensive than a full traffic signal. Also, it doesn't stop traffic unless it needs to. Crossings need to be close enough together to address pedestrian needs. So this allows for that without making a bunch of traffic signals. It's important to have very high visibility crosswalk markings and overhead lighting. What is also useful is advanced stop lines, so traffic stops far away from pedestrians, and a warning sign to let them know what's going to happen, what's going on, and that they need to watch out for pedestrians. Can you go back a slide for me? So I recommended those in all these red ones here. So like on Route 1, you don't want a bunch of stoplights. That's no good. So that's what these are in these couple places where pedestrians might need to go. That way traffic doesn't get stopped unless there's actually a pedestrian there, which isn't going to happen very often, but maybe sometimes it will.
So in some of the areas in Fredericksburg, we have just the hawk signals, which are the flashing lights.
Right.
This gives it another level.
These are more robust.
Okay.
Yeah, these are much more robust. You know, on Route 1, people are going pretty fast. So this is a much more, these are overhead, big red lights flashing really big. Yeah. Okay, so this one is a pedestrian refuge median. Maybe you've seen these. This is when you have a big wide street and effectively makes your street narrower, because you only have to cross half of it at a time. Best if you can light them for nighttime visibility, then the median should be 8 feet wide to accommodate cyclists, and add them when you're widening the road. So if you're going to be having those really wide roads, Ladysmith's going to be four lanes, 6 lanes, I don't even know.
Ladysmith Road would be 4 lanes, the intersection there is gonna be 8 lanes.
Yeah, so you're going to need some refuge medians.
And that's not in conjunction with the signalized stop. This is a non-signalized crossing?
You should, it depends on the context. You can have it with or without.
Okay.
You can definitely have a signalized crossing here too. But you can just have these wherever, like if you're gonna have a road this wide, even if you don't have a crossing here, it's good to have a median with these spaces for people because, you know, people will be people and they will try to cross the road.
Oh yeah, we've got them all over in DC, getting from park to park up there.
All right, next slide. So this is the whole map of all of Ladysmith and the recommendations, and you can see that this attempts to provide a network of pedestrian and bicyclist improvements that allow people to get around. Because there's a lot going on in Ladysmith. There's a school out here past, this is Vulture Road, so there's a school out here, and there are, there's a whole huge, this is Lake Landover on this side of the road. Right now, there's no safe way for pedestrians to get to the amenities here and here, and it's their own neighborhood. So this will be a crossing here, and they'll have a way to get safely into Ladysmith. There's a school here. There's a new development that's growing here. There's a place to get pizza and chicken up here. You know, and there's no crossing, so we'll need a crossing here. And this way, the people that live all the way down to Lake Caroline can get into Ladysmith as well. This was a very, very fun project, favorite kind of project. Oh, and this is going to be a brand new road with parking on the street and a bike lane. This is going to be the new downtown.
Is that analogous to what you see in Richmond right now?
In what way?
You were saying parking on the street with the bike lane right there.
Oh, yeah. So the parking is like road, parking, bike lane, sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like check the bike lane from getting doored. Yeah. Cool. So come back in 20 years and see what Ladysmith looks like.
You can lead a tour of it.
I just rode that road all the way from the other side of the highway to Beaver Dam, and it was a scary 5 or so months. There's no shoulder, there's nothing.
That's brave, brave.
Rural Virginia.
Hopefully it will be better. Yeah, anyway.
Happy to see Portland.
I think that's the last. Okay, so the next steps, I'm going to be presenting this to the planning commission on October 28th. And after that, the plan will be available on our website once it's been approved by Caroline. And hope for the best.
Just to follow up, once board supervisors looks at it and approves it, then a comp plan amendment will go through the process to add it to the comp plan. So that we hopefully get it in place in 25, 30 years.
That's how planning works, sadly.
You don't plan for it now, it's not gonna happen in 20 or 30,
Right.
50 years, right?
Carrie, just a question there. Where your previous slide talked about small, Ladies Fest small area, or is the term small area being used now in a sort of a legalistic, technical way?
I don't know if it's a legalistic term, but that seems to be what planners call it. And
Okay.
I've done 2 of them now. I did one for Bowling Green and I've done one for Lady Smith.
Okay.
Used to be just, instead of like a regional plan
Mhm.
or a city plan, this is like a small area.
Sub-region, town.
Yeah.
Like maybe town,
It's a little bit bigger than a
village, maybe.
sub area. It's like Fredericksburg's doing like, what are they calling Fredericksburg's? Like sub area. Yeah, this is a little bit bigger than that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
This looks neat.
Thank you. Great.
All right, on to item C, ongoing bike and ped needs and concerns. Gooch.
All right, does anybody have any concerns or bike ped needs that they want to talk about for the region? Specific roadways that are of concern,
Intersections.
intersections, et cetera.
Do you remember how this map works?
This is where we get to draw on the map of what we want to see.
Yeah, something that I just saw in the Stafford area, finding email to publish it, that they just approved lighting on Bill Road because of the dangers. They're going to be providing lighting, but there's nowhere to walk or ride or anything along the road. Like I run from Garrisonville down Pondville to get on to Quantico to run the trails, and like it goes pavement ditch in that area. So if the city or the county is looking at lighting that area, I haven't seen anything talking about pedestrian traffic. The pathway in which they're going to be lighting for pedestrian traffic, because the only sidewalk area is right next to the CDF, whatever it is there, or right behind a gas station, a 7-Eleven or something, and then it just ends and turns into residential area.
That road has definitely been identified as a need. I know we identified it on our bike ped plan. I'm pretty sure transportation staff has looked at that recently and tried to get some projects going for our sidewalks along that road. I'm not sure if it's staff as well. I can check on that.
And then the other one, I've been talking to local communities around. It was brought up when we were looking at the Greenway study and looking at all the potential proposed and looked at and passed. There was one path that stretches from Mountain View Road near just east of the high school, and it cuts through the power distribution area, through Shelton, Run housing community. All the power line easements east, or connects to the Emory Mills. Yeah. Talking to some of the different ones, it's hard for some of these micro communities because they don't have a really well-formed, I guess, housing organization yet. But my community in Shelton Run seemed like it was a good idea. And that then they was already discussed with them. 10 years ago or whenever.
Yeah, I think it was a honor friend of a while back.
Yeah, well, before anybody on that committee ever took a position. I tried to talk to some of the other micro housing areas that popped up, and they all seem like it's a good idea. So is there something, a way to relook at it? Because we have the power line have already easements and stuff, it's just wasted or unused space in Stafford, and there's no real long west of the 595 on one, there's no real trail system for Stafford in the northern Stafford area.
Yeah, I mean, we have some shared use along courthouse now. So that's something at least, but this would be a nice sort of off-road east-west connector. And do you have aerial photographs on here?
Yeah, I think I can change the base now.
Okay,
And thinking
I can just show you where it is.
with local, like, high school athletics and everything else, that would connect Mountain View, all the way out to, what is it, Colonial High School? I'm horrible with school names. The high school right off of, Courthouse Road, the newer high school. Colonial Heights, I think so it's called. Colonial. Yeah, so it would be connecting all these new micro communities together and within Marine Mills and all the way out to
Right.
Mountain View High School.
Yeah, that one was on our plan as well, but, I don't think it's
We're not quite
necessarily
sure.
been identified
So
as
that's
priority.
Here.
Do what?
Yeah, so you
Oh.
can, so yeah, right there.
Yeah,
So you
so
can see that break right there, it's for that.
here's Mountain View High School.
Yeah.
The path actually comes out, there's a power distribution area right. Come into my neighborhood, okay, so the power distribution facilities here, the plan has come out just east of Casey, or southeast of Casey Road. It'll cut through the Shelton Run community, through the park here, go up, there's a farm lane here, and then it's gonna cut across the power lines, I believe, come right through between these two communities. So it'll cut through here and then head east. Out between the schools and everything.
Is this currently utility?
From here, all the way to here is utility because we have a park and then a clear path. And I can run out to the power distribution area and then run down to Mine Road, Mountain View Road.
The whole stretch is a
Yeah.
back easement.
And then the easement cuts from here across, or the easement begins here. This gets a little tricky. It's farm community. But there's agreements with them evidently because the power, in-ground power lines are already installed to that area. But the above-ground power lines cut here east through these housing areas.
Hey, Sari, were we gonna add our local planned routes to this map as well? So we can toggle those on?
Our local planned routes? Yeah, we
Yeah,
should
so-
at some point do that.
So like our bike ped plan
Yeah,
routes,
I haven't had time to work with this map at all.
okay. Because it's definitely on there.
Yeah, and it cuts
Is this
between
that
the
one
middle
that-
schools and elementary schools.
That's-
Yeah, parallel.
That one that sort of already goes out that way? You've got one that looks weird, like on your map that, I was like, what is that? And it was like,
Straight line.
yeah.
So we had to drawn, that's where I identified it, and when we're doing the Greenwood study, I went to my housing area, it's like, do we know about this? Because this cuts directly through our housing area and through our park. They didn't know about it, but I think there was somebody on the board I reached out to that.
Yeah. I think many years ago, there was a bond referendum to build it, but there was a lot of community pushback at the time, so it didn't go through. So who knows, maybe I'll have better luck.
It may have more support now because we have all the Shelton's Woods micro community popped up. There's a lot of these little pocket communities along the way, and they're like trapped in their community areas. it because you go out on the Shelton Shop Road, that's not safe to walk on.
Right.
And that portion of Courthouse Road is definitely not safe to walk on. So having a trail system that connects them to other communities all the way down to the Roush Center and all the local schools would be hugely beneficial for the northern Stafford area, I think.
And another cool thing is, in a few years, we should be getting shared use path along Shelton Shop. So,
Nice.
yeah, so they've, transportation staff has successfully worked that into the scoping for that road improvement.
All of our counties need a budget for outreach, by the way. What makes me think about this is what happened with Belmont Ferry Farm.
Oh, I was gonna ask about that.
For those of you who don't know, phase 6 of Belmont Ferry Farm was basically canceled, at least for now.
What was the reason?
Constraints, mainly budget constraints, but there really weren't any good economical options to make the connection. So the board voted to basically pull it. And, that's not prohibiting anything from being done in the future, obviously, but for now, it's going to end at the Chatham Bridge, and that's it.
So I know that somebody mentioned already renaming it, so it's not Belmont to Ferry Farm, but Belmont to Fredericksburg or something.
Something.
So I was going to bring that up later. I have a message I'm relaying on behalf of Kevin Brown, who y'all may know from one place or the other, but it's on the city's Pathways Committee as well. He wanted to make sure that was discussed. He couldn't be there this evening, but I was thinking about it should be more reflective of the trails destination.
Right.
The news article I read had more to say about resident issues with the trail.
There was some of that. I think that was probably a big part of it too, but, combination, I guess. There were some people that showed up at the board meeting and spoke out against it, so.
Are they the ones that were kind of on the path, their houses on the path?
Yeah, there's some, so I think there was some owners along Naomi Road.
Seems like that would increase their property values immensely. Being able to walk to town, it's.
Yeah, I mean.
One would think.
You would think, but I guess it's all just a matter of your perspective. But some people just don't, they're not interested in cycling maybe, or
I understand.
stuff, or wanting to keep things the way they have been. So.
Yeah. That does kind of beg the question is, once the bicyclist or a walker gets coming down the path to the east end of the bridge, but wants to keep on going on Route 3, is that a good, safe option for them? No.
Not right now.
Okay. So what are we gonna do about that? Just have it in the plans, I guess, to upgrade it or improve it or something.
Yeah, I have to revisit it, try to come up with some alternatives.
Yeah.
Maybe we can look at it as, with the BPAC and
Yeah, when we
come
get
up
a
with some
chance.
potential routes. Right?
It would be good to look at it as a group when we get a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well,
I have an eye.
does anybody else have anything to put on here?
Oh, on here, no. I have an item.
Since we spoke about it earlier, can we put a line on Rebels Road and Smith Station? Between 208 and then Smith Station to, not Concord,
All the way down.
or at least to Patriot Park. That was
You got
supposed to
the
be
school on
widened.
there too.
Wasn't that supposed to be widened, like 2008-ish, and then the economy happened and I thought there were like
I know,
Public hearings and everything.
yeah, I know the road's planned for widening in our thoroughfare plan, but I don't know of anything priority. I know the roads that we're looking at right now for widening and applications in for, and those aren't it right now. I don't know about 2008 off my radar. I'm not sure. I actually have another project in Spotsy that brings me back to last year, but I probably should be on this too. It has to do with, and it was brought up in this meeting like last year. It's actually the crossing over the 4 Mile, the shopping center, not at the intersection though, back near like the entrance to Hard Times, crossing over from like that Dairy Queen area, right?
Yeah, that's where most people.
Did you bring that comment up?
I did.
Yeah.
I see the pedestrians all the time and
Yeah.
they don't cross at the corner.
That's right. So that little area, I think I've already informed, that's a smart scale project there at that intersection, and I have informed Paul, that is on our radar, but I just wanted to note that it is on our radar, and that is identified as a problem location, so.
Yeah.
I have a question. It may not be a problem, probably not a problem now, but for the future. Spotsylvania Courthouse.
Yes.
208 Lake Anna Parkway, Rock Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bunch of townhouses have gone in over there. And you've got all the shops and stuff going on right there at the courthouse.
Mhm.
Shouldn't there be crosswalks right there?
Where specific?
Okay, let's, when she
I
said,
just want to make sure I'm on the right
Sure.
spot.
once she gets to the.
I can tell you this,
Because every time I'm
we're
over,
pushing, as a matter of fact, via private development, I think we're gonna get the start of it. But we are actively looking to get a shared use path extended from Rock Road all the way up to Wild Turkey, right up,
good, that's good.
with crosswalks there, obviously at those intersections, but
Okay.
just want to make sure I'm in the right spot.
So here, right here. Right
Yeah,
there. Because there's all this stuff, like, aren't there townhouses over
that's,
there?
that's Keswick development, yeah, identify that, that's legit.
So shouldn't there be sidewalks here and crossing here? Because right now, there's no way to cross there now, and in the future,
The crossing, yes, in terms of the parkway south of Brock
Like
Road, I
not-
think we fall out, it goes to a real wide paved shoulder down there, and I don't think the Trailways plan envisions like a sidewalk alongside of that.
okay, mostly I'm concerned about the crossing.
The
Mostly I'm
crossing
concerned
I
about
totally agree with, and I'll tell you, someone who used to I used to live there, used to ride my bike down Brock Road to the entrance of the battlefield in Swansea, and I loved it, but it's a scary route down
That's a
Brock
terrible
Road.
place to ride
And
a
then
bike.
coming back up the parkway without having any shared use path or shoulder, you're riding in the gutter. Literally, you're riding in a concrete gutter. It's nerve wracking. Brock Road has timbering trucks and things like that rolling. It's
I live
curving.
there,
And
it's awful.
it's a little white knuckle to get to the park. And it's such a beautiful kind of path through the park, but man, it's risky. But we have identified, because what we're trying to do with the Spotsylvania Courthouse area is really kind of enhance accessibility to historic resources and attractions in the area. And one of the things we're looking to do is actually run a connection. I don't believe it's shared use path. I think it's more like maybe a shared use path within the prior development boundary, but after that, it falls into like a shoulder improvement type of project. Basically to get to the entrance to the battlefield.
Sure.
But yeah, we have identified that. Anytime that we're like coming to an intersection, we'll include crosswalk improvements. So recently, we had, last meeting, I think you covered the TAP projects.
Mhm.
I just had to resubmit the Germana Point Drive shared use path. And I just updated that map to include crosswalk improvements at 17 to tie that pedestrian into the Hospital Boulevard Trail, which is already in place. And then that gets you to Spotsy Parkway, and it's all connecting up to Germana Community College with this. So yeah, anytime we're there, absolutely crosswalk improvements, agreed.
Okay,
And that's at a lit intersection as well, so that is a VDOT preference to do a crossing at an existing light, so
Every time I'm there, I think it needs a crosswalk, but
I hear you.
Speaking of sketchy crossing areas, Salisbury and Garrisonville, at the marketplace, and Mine Road in Garrisonville at the other end of the marketplace. The crosswalk situation there doesn't really make sense. The hotel is on one side of the road. You have to cross Salisbury, then cross Garrisonville, then cross Salisbury.
Salisbury. Aren't you guys doing something at Salisbury? Isn't that where the commuter lot is and sidewalk?
It's in between two commuter lots in the town, or
You're gonna
Mine
put a
Road.
sidewalk there.
the north part of Mine Road, there's a commuter lot.
There's gonna be
and
a path.
on the
Yeah, there's
northern part
gonna
of
be a
Garrison,
sidewalk
it's-
here.
Yeah, and then Salisbury, the commuter lot's on the south side of Garrisonville Road there.
So yeah, in between Garrisonville and the commuter lot, right?
Yeah, but there's hotels in that area, but the shopping centers and most of the family restaurants are on the other side of Garrisonville. It really doesn't make sense. And if you look at that safety map that you sent us for the plan, that's also where all the accidents and injuries are associated, are Salisbury and Mine Road intersections with Garrisonville. Or not all, but a good population density and the more severe accidents as well. At those two. I didn't know if this brought up before.
Yeah, that's one of the applications.
Yeah, I thought so. I think you're gonna have crossing improvements there. Part of that application.
Yeah, those lights turn really quick, so somebody trying to get across Garrisonville on any of those is cycling problem.
Yeah, integrating this map with all of the rest of that is just something we haven't had time to get to. We might be able to get to it in December.
While you're there, you could draw a line through that interchange connecting east-west. Because that needs to be figured out one way or the other. Because you have no connection between Aquia, the rest of the shopping and everything there.
Yeah, people are always there, seeing where lights are walking that stretch.
That's already been identified in our plans, but we can emphasize it a little more on here, I guess.
I'm just tasked with like going back and doing all of the lack of pedestrian infrastructure over the last 50 years.
I have
Small
a
task.
number of suggestions in the city. I am going to review these further for which ones rise to regional significance.
Sure.
So they can be discussed and added as needed in the future.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, just like try to get them into projects, like well as we can, one by one. You know, the Lady Smith Bike Ped plan, several of those are becoming smart scale projects, so little bits, like a lot of that won't get done for 30 years, but some of them will be done hopefully in the next 6 or 7, little bits here and there, maybe. You know, Bowling Green got a project out of their plan, so they're getting a bunch of new infrastructure in the next 7 years, so nothing's ever quick. All right, so if we're done with that,
Carrie, I've got an item.
what's that?
I have an item.
Jim has an
I have an
item.
item. Yeah, but it's okay,
Did
Mr. Chairman.
you close it? No.
Yeah, we have a small industrial park in King George. There's a couple of trails that pass adjacently to the park. There's been an expressed concern about the negative impact of the trails on the industrial park. This just popped up lately. I'm sitting here scratching my head, scratching my head when it popped up, and trying to understand, what the worry is, what the concern is. And I'm not getting real good answers, but I don't want to sort of just concentrate on our little issue in our little county, but what I'm looking for is, does anybody know of any instances where they've had a trail that goes past in industrial park, and there've been some issues, or there haven't been issues, pros and cons, in the process of trying to gather information, the adjacency of the trail to.
You could argue that the
industrial park.
DCR trail right before it gets to Alum Springs is through an industrial area. And the crosswalks that were across the driveways in that industrial space, that was negotiated with the city, I'm pretty sure. Those guys who were doing it. So that might be something to talk to Fredericksburg about.
Yeah,
See how they work that out.
yeah, that'd be an interesting sample. Yeah, I asked some of our trail advocates down in Richmond. They had three examples of industrial parks where trails in industrial parks seem to happily coexist. Have you ever heard of any instances where there has been an issue? I said, no.
We've got an industrial park in Caroline, and Carrie in her Ladysmith plan, we've got the shared use path that goes through the front part of the industrial park.
Okay.
But in the back part, we have a military contractor, and it's, if you step over this line, you will be shot, no question. And so, like, we're not gonna go anywhere near the back.
Sure. Okay.
It's not even the back, it's just one intersection, we're not crossing with any trails or anything like that. So.
I'll write you an email if that's okay, Craig. I'd like to know.
So, users they have in the industrial park down there, but.
Yeah, industrial uses are typically low traffic generators too, so
Yeah.
from that standpoint, I would think, aesthetically, this is probably not gonna be great for a trail, but from a practical standpoint, works okay.
Well, everything I've read, actually, this express worry, concern just popped up out of the blue weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago. I'm thinking, where the hell did that come from? So basically, what I'm trying to do is just gather some information from myself so I can help the people in my county understand.
Just for clarity, is it users of the trail are concerned about the proximity to an industrial park, or the industrial park itself is having an issue with, I don't know, random people coming off the trail and like graffitiing their buildings or something? Which side is it?
Yeah, it isn't either side. It's some members of our board out there have somehow gotten in their head that having a trail pass next to our industrial park would have a detrimental effect on the industrial park.
It's Chris Clark.
Everybody agrees that there's a, in industrial parks are generally economic engines of the county they're in, or the town they're in, or the city they're in. So you have to, so a trail is going to have to accommodate whatever the interests of the industrial park are. But what I'm looking for, okay, where are the places where trails pass close to industrial parks? Did there have to be an accommodation? And your indication that the trail has to keep away from this part of the industrial park. That would be extremely interesting.
Yeah, that's our opinion. It's not that the military contractors stay away from us. It's just we don't see a point in running a trail next to the military contractor.
Yeah.
And so there's an intersection in the industrial park. Once you get to the intersection, the road just goes to that military contractor.
Can't go that way.
So we're not crossing the intersection.
Yeah, sure, got it. Okay.
I've had similar experiences as the chair with industrial users where they can be understandably particular about security. And depending on whether this is in public right of way or private land, often if there is a negotiation private land, they're not going to want it without a fence, without some sort of barrier, for those very reasons that they might be protective of. So just something to think about. Sure. As an encroachment.
Yes, indeed.
That's a good point too. A potential industrial plant may not want unknown individuals crossing their property.
Yeah, we have another industrial park in Caroline that there's no reason for a bike path to be there. But if we were going to put a bike path there, then we wouldn't have an industrial complex. It's one company, and if we were saying a bike trail was gonna go there, they wanted it built in Caroline.
Got it, okay.
And so it very well could be the users of the industrial park as to why they don't want bike paths there.
This is Chris Clark from King George County. One of the things is we have, at least from what I've gathered, because I'm not part of the discussions, one business proposal that has not yet been discussed in public that is still in closed session that is a conflict of possibility in this, and that is what is hampering our board from making decisions that way. They are trying to recruit a new business to the county that may not be able to work with that, and it's not in public domain yet.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris. That's helpful.
All right, so any other ongoing needs and concerns before we move forward? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, correspondence. Carrie, do we have any correspondence?
We have no correspondence this month.
All right, we'll move on to part 8, staff reports. Carrie, do we have staff?
Right, first staff report I have here is we have a new BPAC member that we need to welcome behind you there. If you would please introduce yourself.
Heather LaBelle from Caroline County.
Welcome. And the next thing I have to say is we have a new intern. She's not here with us tonight, but her name is Lana Bizot, and she's going to be working with us about 15 hours a week doing GIS and planning work. She comes from UMW, and it's been really great working with her so far. My last piece of news is that 3 of our people are out this week partying in Arizona at the AMPO conference. They're giving presentations and enjoying the desert. Adam, Matthew, and Ian. That's why you didn't get a AMPO administrator report this week. So they will be with us again next time.
Very good.
And that is it for me.
All right, do we have any member reports? You got Jacob?
Sure, I'll start real quick. Yep, just following up for the group, Caroline, we'll have to meet on the East Coast Greenway.
Yeah,
We'll meet on that. It's something we'll have to work out, the formalized route revision. I wanted to update everyone that at last meeting, I had informed everyone that our comprehensive plan was going to the Board of Supervisors public hearing on September 14th. I don't know if you've read it in the papers, but that meeting actually got canceled like the day of or the day before for lack of a quorum. So our board public hearing for the comp plan has actually been backed up to Tuesday, October 12th. So hopefully after next week, Tuesday, we don't get tabled or anything like that. We'll have a new comp plan for Spotsylvania County ready to go. Just 2 things, and these may be future discussion items. We are, I think we had communicated in the past that the county was successful in the previous round of smart scale, securing the widening of Tyler Trail, including the development of a portion of East Coast Greenway from the Fredericksburg City line to Shannon Airport. So that's a nice big chunk with the regional connection to Fredericksburg there. And I know Fredericksburg now is looking at connectivity coming out of the commuter parking lot and all that. So that's in motion. However, we're actively looking now the next step from Shannon Airport down to Benchmark, and we're looking even more aggressively all the way down Benchmark Road to the VRE station. And this is a question for the National Park Service. The park comes up to Benchmark Road, and honestly, in terms of routing, due to topography and the amount of housing, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity there for routing it down that side of Benchmark Road, because I have limited options to get that thing headed to the VRE. It's something that we'll have to talk about.
It so we can take a look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to like kind of preliminarily scope this thing out,
Yeah.
and get to the VRE station. And potentially there's a tunnel that was reconstructed with the additional trackage right across from Merrily Carter Park. It's kind of a pedestrian-sized tunnel, and it was reconstructed there, and we're looking at that probably as the way to get ourselves to Eagle Drive and the Mass Pine Church Road, and shoot down that shot to Route 1, and then we'll talk about Caroline connection. But we are looking at an East Coast Greenway auxiliary trail to get down to the VRE station, and then tie into Thornton Rolling Road, which we may actually get a good chunk of that through a private rezoning that's coming up potentially. It's in their GDP. And then that'll connect us to right of way that was dedicated for East Coast Greenway auxiliary trail now at Fredericksburg Christian School. So there's a lot of momentum there, but that's something I definitely want to bring up because I think for planning purposes, we're really starting to look for trying to pursue funding for these projects now and really start moving this along. And then the last one is just a question for everyone as well. I'm trying to get ahead of some of these bike ped challenges. I think in the last meeting, I identified some of the codes and standard issues, outdated things that don't help us or proactively help us get the frontage improvements that we need necessarily. They may be oriented towards sidewalks solely and give you a loose option for shared use path if approved by the planning director. Well, the problem with that is we have the regional trail plan, our local trail plan, we have these road sections plans that say sidewalk and shared use path. Well, you need a sidewalk, you need a shared use path. I can't have a shared use path running directly into a concrete narrow sidewalk and inconsistency down the corridor or jumping back and forth every time some developer wants to put a sidewalk versus a shared use path because they say the sidewalk's cheaper, so there's less space required for the shared use path. And I'm wondering if any localities or any code standards that you know of really kind of set the standard for in these dual roads. Like if you're on this side of the road, you're doing a frontage improvement, it's a sidewalk. If you're on this side, it's shared use path. And then also recognizing, if there's more right of way needed or more burden associated with a wider shared use path, if there's some sort of like street buffer credit that you can get, reduce your street buffer because you're giving more space for shared use path on your side to kind of equalize things.
Yeah, take a look
It's a
at
challenge.
Take a look at Chesterfield's code.
Thank you for that.
Back when I worked there, I wasn't in the planning department, but I helped with the bike ped plan, and that was one of the things they did to kind of offset the impacts of the shared use path requirements and whatnot. They sort of gave developers credit against street buffers and setbacks for incorporating them.
Because the challenge I have is we start seeing in infrastructure implemented. It's like we're going down Route 1 with shared use path, and all of a sudden through development review, someone comes in for a waiver modification, planner says, yeah, you can't fit it, here's sidewalk. Now I have, what am I working with?
Yeah.
Now I need logic.
Yeah.
And it needs to make sense and be consistent
Yeah.
and predictable.
Consistency is.
And so that's the issue that I have, and that's where the challenge I have, because the other thing is when we can get these sections developed privately, it's easier then to go through just for funding purposes because you've gained right of way over time, and you have sections that are completed, and now you're just closing gaps rather than the whole run. So it works magnificently if we can get this right. That's very helpful. I want to get ahead of that and update our DSM. I've requested that we do some DSM updates and try to address that issue. So that's all.
I'm interested to see what you come up with. In
Yeah.
Stafford right now, we don't have requirements for shared use paths, strictly sidewalks. And for residential, it's if you have lots less than 2/3 of an acre, you have to provide sidewalks internally for the subdivision. But along existing roads, there's no requirements unless you're in our highway corridor overlay districts, which is more urban areas.
Yeah. And so that's the thing too. So we're having a lot of success getting our shared use paths with transportation applications along the roads. Greenways, off-road greenways is a whole other story, and that's a bigger challenge because there's, like I said earlier, there's no, unless it's a CIP listed project, there's no public works, no team that's like can move that process along. But this would be great if we can work something out where we can get this sidewalk for shared use path issue identified and be more predictable. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Brian? you wanna go ahead?
Don't really have much. One quick thing, Jacob's comment reminded me, but Stafford's hearing, it's a joint public hearing on the comp plan update. It's going to be on October 19th, 7 o'clock.
Is this early kickoff type of thing, direction, or
This is it.
you're doing it all together? Oh, good for you.
Well, I'm not doing it.
My presentation of
Mike's
planning
there.
commission was something like that.
Wow.
Long presentation.
We'll see how it goes.
Park Service, Chris?
Sure, so for those that might not have been down at any time recently, you all know, the chip sealing on the project of Lee Drive has been going on. We started with this, what we call South Lee Drive, which is from Lansdowne down to the cul-de-sac. That was chip sealed first, and now we're on the Lansdowne to Lafayette along Lee Drive is being done. We expect that to be done probably by the end of this week, I think it'll be done. And then it's just a matter of the, getting set and all that kind of stuff. We've gotten some complaints for folks. We anticipated it not as bad as, I guess my predecessor had to put up with, but that it was slowed down because of the major microburst that we had and the over 200 trees that went down in Lee Drive. It was amazing. I've got some great footage. And the we're still waiting for the developer to put up the lights that are the flashing lights from Lafayette onto Lee Drive. But we're going to be going ahead and reconfiguring that little it's a triangle. It's like a little pocket park at the front of Lee Drive there in Lafayette. And that'll include a rubberized path that will bring you into where the stone is for the dedication of the park and that kind of stuff. We honestly are still trying to figure out what's the safe route to get folks from that onto Lee Drive, that sort of thing. But for right now, that at least gets them across and into a safe landing zone that they can kind of enjoy it. So that's the biggest thing that's going on in the park. For myself, I've been asked to take on what in the Park Service is called a detail, which is a time-limited job. I'm going to be working as the Deputy Regional Director for the service. It's the Northeast region, so it's Maine to Virginia to West Virginia. So I am working to get somebody to fill in behind me here in the park. So it may not be me that's here, it may be somebody else that is. I have a feeling those duties. Just drinking from the fire hose, and it hasn't officially started yet. That I won't be able to keep this stuff going. I literally was rolling in at the last minute because I was just finishing up. So, but BPAC is on my list for the acting. That's 120 days, so it'll go until February probably.
Good luck with
Are you
that.
still based from here then, or they?
Yeah, so it's normally if it wasn't COVID and stuff, I probably would be going to Philadelphia or Boston to do the job. But for right now, I'm going to be mostly working out of here and then traveling as I need to.
Is there any plan for the future to connect with Cannonsar to Mine Run with any type of hardened trail there, or is that always going to be a natural surface trail?
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that. I'd be interested to hear what you're thinking about.
I mean, I'm mostly on the natural surface trails, but when we do ride Lee Drive, we do ride our road bikes through there. And of course, it's really chunky, rocky, and all that stuff. So I know a lot of people go to Benchmark and then of course go out to Fort Rolling and out. So it's a great thoroughfare just to get from downtown on reasonably safe roads.
Same sort of thing, right? Like let's bring it up. Let's look at what would it take to do it. What would it look like in the long run? We always take into account what's the resource that we can either enhance people getting to see it if we're opening up an area. What's the potential of the resource damage to it? So there's the balance there. Then there's also the visitor experience. What do we want people to get when they're out there? So all will come into play. So be interested to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I don't remember the names of all the cycle groups. You guys want to go around?
Yeah, Rob, Maple Fred Trails, nothing to report tonight.
All right.
John Summer, Fredericksburg cyclist, just came off a record-breaking cannonball ride. Had 400 people close to show up for 100 miles of fun. And
That's pretty cool.
Aaron Frank from the city. I've got just 3 updates for tonight. First 2 have to do with somewhat active projects. First one is a VDOT project intersection improvement at Fall Hill and Route 1. They just had the public comment period and public meeting for it. It's in preliminary design. But from a bike ped perspective, it's pretty concerning, just from the fact that there are no improvements for bike ped associated with it. It adds, extends the slip lane, widens the intersection, so nothing crazy, but at the same time, those are detrimental to ped connectivity in an area where it really does need some improvement. So, I commented and hoping to get the city to at least engage with VDOT to try to see if we can get anything as simple as painting to something that might actually cost money, like crosswalk and sidewalk. So we'll see where that goes, but not super encouraging at all. Second update is for nearby. I noticed that recently Sam Perry Drive or Boulevard, whatever it is, at the hospital was repaved. And wasn't sure if anybody's familiar with either paving schedule or I assume that's VDOT, but I don't know that. But it's very weird road geometry there. It's unstriped before the paving and it's unstriped after the paving. But it is, I don't know, maybe 22, 24 feet wide or something. So it's perfectly aligned for 2 cars to awkwardly go right next to each other, what happens pretty frequently. It's a great bike connection, because you got to get up that hill one way or another, besides Route 1. And the hospital usually offers a way to do that, to connect to the Callan multi-use path and so forth. Could have been a really good opportunity for striping. Hopefully that opportunity has not closed yet. So looking to see if there's anybody at this group or more likely at the city to try to get that conversation going, if that conversation hasn't already occurred.
Do we have somebody from the city's?
We're supposed to
retire?
So Jamie Jackson is trying to do like 10 jobs, unfortunately. I'm gonna reach out to her and see if maybe there's someone else she can designate for BPAC. Because literally, like, she's heading Fred, she's now replaced Eric Nelson, she's doing way too many things at once. So I'm gonna see who we can reach out to on that. So, yeah.
Third report, this is the fun one. On a personal note, I recently did the C&O Canal, which was a lot of fun. I'm sure folks are really familiar here. If not having done it, I think Rob, maybe you said you did. And just very cool example from economic, social, recreational value and the benefits that a very long and well-used trail system can give to communities. So just wanted to throw that out there. Pretty cool regional example.
It's neat. Do you have a contact for Fredericksburg Pathways meeting?
So that's Jamie's also.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a few of the members. I think Rob, you're on that. Yeah.
I sit on that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Because they were defunct for a while, were they not?
Yeah, about a year.
Yeah.
There was a long lapse there. I think Mr. Brody's intent was to get that committee stood back up and start thinking about, local city, bike ped stuff.
Yeah, so I feel like they belong here if they're functioning again. So maybe we should reach out to them if you guys think that's appropriate. All right.
But Jamie's the chair of that now too, so.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
telling you, like, I don't know what she does with you.
Multiple, birds with one stone when she comes here.
Yeah, but really, she hasn't got the time. All right. So I will reach out, see what I can for them.
Jim?
I don't have any other items to bring up.
Okay.
But thank you.
Deputy Right Connect, I mentioned last time we had an open position that has been filled. And then we have Tim Mitchell as our new outreach and support specialist. She's had her first week this week and she did an excellent, amazing job.
First A, you got a report? For Caroline, again, I'd like to say thanks to Carrie for late. The late Smith Bike and Ped Plan. Hopefully everything goes well, we get it adopted into our comp plan and start trying to get this done. We've got some developments going on in the area or getting started in the area, so hopefully we can get a little bit implemented sooner rather than later. Like Jacob said, we're gonna have to look at rerouting the East Coast Greenway again. In the current route, this is an example in Caroline, it's tough because I've got, in the current route, property owner who has 12,000 feet of road frontage. And so when you put a 10-foot wide shared use path on that much road frontage, then you're taking 4 acres out of production of this farm. And so it's tough getting a farmer who's gonna make $10,000 a year off those 4 acres to get that property from it, unless you're gonna pay him $10,000 a year. So we're working on finding a route that's gonna work. And it's gonna be a while before parts of that are implemented, but we're working with Spotsylvania and Hanover to try and find a route that's gonna work for us for the East Coast Greenway to hopefully be able to get some of that implemented in the next 7 to 10 years. And that's it for Caroline.
Mr. Chair, Chris Clark, King George County. I know I joined late, but the go-to meeting didn't come up till about 6:30. We just want to thank Mr. Hollis and Ms. Gibson for coming out to our Board of Supervisors meeting to help explain in more detail and more clearly than I did the Greenway plan. And then Ms. Barber and Mr. Googe from Stafford for working with us to work on that western connection of that plan so that everything lined up, and my board is now very happy.
I'm glad they're pleased.
It's been a long 6 weeks, but I just thank everybody for their help.
All right, any more members online? All right, that looks like we're done with member reports, and so I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Nice to meet you, Aaron.
Yeah.